8. Robert Truscott. 37-year-old Emma Wolfenden from England learned the hard way that some people are incapable of respecting boundaries. Her friend Robert Truscott became obsessed with her and kept hoping for a relationship, even though Emma denied his advances and made it clear that her feelings were strictly platonic. So, when Truscott found out that Wolfenden planned to have a Tinder date over at her home one evening in early 2022, he went off the deep end. The jealous friend rode his bike over to Emma's place in the English village of Oakham, where he attacked the woman and her date with a 10-inch, 25-centimeter kitchen knife. Emma then spent 3 months in the hospital after undergoing 4 surgeries for serious injuries. But sadly, she passed away in June due to unrelated causes. Her date suffered a cut to his hand from wrestling the knife away from the intruder, but was otherwise unharmed. Truscott was convicted of attempted murder and causing grievous bodily harm. And in the end, he was sentenced to 29 years in prison. 7. Paul Lambert. A 28-year-old Australian doctor named Angela J. narrowly escaped with her life when a former Tinder fling attacked her inside her own home in 2016. She'd just arrived at her house in Port Macquarie, New South Wales, when a man she'd met less than 2 months earlier emerged from her closet and put his hand over her mouth. 36-year-old Paul Lambert stabbed Dr. J multiple times and doused her with gasoline as she fought to escape his grasp. Thankfully, though, she managed to free herself and ran to her neighbor, who called for help and administered first aid, while Lambert fled the scene. Police caught up with Lambert 93 miles, 150 kilometers away, several hours later. A 6-minute standoff ensued along the side of a highway before he lunged at the officers with a knife in his hand, giving them no choice but to respond with lethal force. Lambert was then shot dead at the scene. Dr. J told the Sydney Morning Herald that she broke off her short-lived romance with Lambert because he quickly became controlling and possessive. A coroner's inquest would later find that Lambert had an established pattern of tormenting his exes with threats and stalking. He excused his abusive behavior by faking multiple personality disorders and other mental illnesses. It's unfortunate that the situation ended in death, but the coroner concluded that the police acted appropriately in their decision to shoot Lambert. And since then, Dr. J has devoted her free time to raising awareness as a domestic violence advocate. 6. Wijahet Saroya. A woman in the Welsh city of Swansea hadn't heard from her high school boyfriend in 15 years when he messaged her out of the blue on Facebook in 2021. Wasn't interested in reconnecting with Wijahet Saroya, and she asked him to stop contacting her. But he didn't listen, and the unwanted correspondence continued even after the woman blocked him. Instead of backing off, Saroya contacted her from other Facebook accounts, telling her that they had something special and calling her his baby. The messaging became increasingly frequent and more disturbing over a several-month period. Saroya asked the victim if she was happy in her current relationship. He also told her that he was going to travel to her city and said that he would do anything to get her back. He even went as far as showing up at her sister's house in search of her and tracking her down at her workplace. A manager at the restaurant where the woman worked saw Saroya staring and told him to leave, then called the police. And during questioning, Saroya allegedly claimed that the relationship was reciprocal and that the woman was just struggling to express her feelings. Saroya stuck to his story in court, arguing that he was the real victim. He accused the police of failing him and claimed that he ended up in criminal court as part of a so-called prefabricated plan. In addition to believing that he was the victim of a conspiracy, he argued that the victim had given him mixed signals. Saroya pleaded guilty, but denied being a stalker. In fact, he said that he was highly offended by having the term applied to him. The judge reminded Saroya that he could withdraw his guilty plea and take the case to trial, but he declined to do so. Handing down a 24-week jail sentence, the judge admonished Saroya for turning his victim's life upside down. She also warned that until or unless Sorolla stops being delusional and thinking he was in a relationship with the woman, he was bound to repeat his inappropriate behavior. 5. Daniel Altman. When 2 Australian women discovered that they were being harassed and stalked online by the same man in 2021, they teamed up to give him a taste of his own medicine by calling out his behavior on national television. For 26-year-old Bianca Trigus, the life-altering ordeal began in April of 2020, when a convicted stalker named Daniel Altman requested to follow her on Instagram. Altman allegedly begged Trigus to accept his friend request and began stealing and using her photos in harmful ways when she refused. Trigus further accused Altman of threatening to make fake profiles using her identity and getting random men to bother her if she refused to send him photos and videos that he demanded. Another victim, Jackie Fratty, claimed to have endured a relentless 5-year smear campaign and constant harassment from at least 10 profiles that were believed to belong to Altman. Tired of the undeserved harassment, the women went on the Australian talk show A Current Affair and discussed what they had been through. During the interview, Trigus said she'd complained to police twice, but was simply told that what she was going through was simply something that she risked by putting photos online. The show's host, Hannah Sinclair, also gave Altman a chance to share his side of the story. She confronted the alleged stalker outside his house and asked him about his online behavior. Altman initially denied being a cyberstalker, but then said that he only does it when he's high. He claimed he was struggling with a drug problem and said he was trying to get it under control, although stalking isn't exactly a known side effect of any drug. During the conversation, Altman apologized to anyone he'd offended and promised to leave the women alone, but he allegedly failed to keep his word. Between the publicity that the report brought to the case and the continued accusations against Altman, police finally decided it was time to move forward with criminal charges. Following an investigation, authorities charged Altman with 5 counts of stalking. Authorities accused him of inappropriately messaging 5 women between 2016 and 2021 and vowed to do everything in their power to hold Altman accountable for his actions. Records show that Altman squared away his legal problems later that year, and one can only hope that he's since found a healthier hobby. 4. Ragan Granger. 22-year-old Ragan Granger found success at a young age as a filmmaker for Netflix and BBC, but he's made news headlines for less honorable reasons in recent years, owing to a cruel stalking campaign against a young woman that began in September 2019. It all began when Granger messaged 21-year-old Georgia Smith saying he was lonely. The two had met at a nightclub in Manchester, England, but any interest between them was one-sided. Smith deleted Granger off social media after he got mad at her for going on vacation with her actual friends and not including him. The young woman was disturbed by Granger's behavior, and it only became worse over the next few months. Blocking Granger did little to stop him. He contacted Smith with over 24 fake social media accounts during his rage-fueled stalking campaign. Smith endured nearly constant fat-shaming, graphic death threats, and other forms of torment, including Granger's use of his graphic art skills to attach her face to realistic-looking naked photos that he posted online. Police arrested Granger after Smith's boyfriend spotted him lurking outside the woman's home in Northern Ireland. He admitted to 1 count of stalking involving fear of violence, serious alarm and distress, and was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. The judge also issued a restraining order banning him from contacting Smith indefinitely. In early 2022, 2 of Granger's ex-girlfriends told news outlets that this might not have happened if the police hadn't brushed off their previous complaints against him. The police apologized for letting the woman down, and hopefully they'll show that they meant it by taking these types of complaints seriously moving forward. 3. Beaumont Bricca. Determined to win over the affections of a doctor's daughter and makeup artist named Eve Taylor, a 26-year-old stablehand from Sussex, England, embarked on a twisted campaign to frame the woman's boyfriend for stalking. Beaumont Bria concocted the plot in early 2019 after the woman turned him down for a date. Using dozens of fake social media accounts, phone numbers, and email addresses, Bria stalked and terrorized Taylor, her partner Tim Dobson, her father, and 7 other people connected to her. And in addition to trying to split the couple up, Bria's goal was to inflict emotional distress on Taylor in a way that would cause her to run to him for comfort. He tried making Dobson and Taylor believe that the other was cheating on them and took disparaging blows at Taylor's self-esteem, hoping it would drive her straight into his arms. Bria spread rumors that Eve was a promiscuous and diseased homewrecker who not only cheated on Dobson, but slept with men behind their wives' and girlfriends' backs. Then, in a bid to make himself look innocent, Bria sent threatening messages to himself using a profile impersonating Taylor. He also tried to damage the reputation of her father, a highly respected physician. The smear campaign initially worked. Dobson and Taylor broke up, and they both plunged into a deep depression due to the never-ending slander and harassment, which left them living in constant fear. Then, in early 2020, Dobson was arrested under the mistaken belief that he was the person causing the anguish among Taylor's circle. But he was cleared of any suspicion, and police shifted their focus to Bria, whose mom tried to take the blame for the stalking by giving a false confession. Bria's mother was sentenced to 2 years and 8 months in prison for perverting the course of justice. And in the end, a jury convicted Bria of 8 counts of stalking, 2 counts of sending malicious communications, and perverting the course of justice. He was sentenced to 7 years and 8 months in prison. 2. Brian Perez. An animal shelter employee in Harris County, Texas, was appalled when she received an inappropriate message from her coworker's husband, 42-year-old Brian Perez, in November 2021. Up until that point, the woman and her husband had been friends with Perez and his wife, and the couples often double-dated. Assuming the message had been sent to her by accident, the woman showed it to Perez's wife, who went through his social media and discovered that he had an apparent fixation with her coworker. The victim told Perez not to contact her, but he allegedly went on to do the exact opposite as the woman avoided him at all costs. Not surprisingly, Perez and his wife separated after the strange stalking campaign came to light. According to a probable cause affidavit obtained by ABC 13, Perez found ways to reach his victim even after she blocked his known social media accounts, email addresses, and phone numbers. He even added himself to photos of the woman's family and posted them online, in an apparent attempt to make himself look like a family member. Perez is also accused of calling the police, pretending to be a relative of the victim, and claiming to have killed her husband. On at least 3 occasions, he showed up at her workplace. And during one particular incident, Perez allegedly claimed that he was the woman's husband. Luckily, though, security knew better and sent him away. In September 2022, authorities charged Perez with felony stalking. He posted bond and remains free pending the outcome of the case. But he's banned from contacting or going near his victim in the meantime. 1. Stephen Dyke. A Welsh woman decided that she wasn't interested in 51-year-old Stephen Dyke after initially connecting with him on a dating app in 2022. She felt that Dyke's behavior was inappropriate, so she blocked him. But escaping him unfortunately proved to be much more difficult than she'd initially anticipated. Dyke continued finding ways to contact the woman, and the nature of his messages grew nastier and more threatening with time. They often consisted of allegations that the woman was a tease and that she had diseases, and included the use of every degrading term imaginable. The victim went to the police, who cautioned Dyke to leave her alone, but the warning fell on deaf ears. So when his behavior continued, police eventually arrested him for stalking. In court, the prosecutor described how Dyke's unwanted contact caused the victim to feel horrible and dirty. She began living in fear, which only worsened after realizing that Dyke was messaging her on apps that they hadn't previously communicated through. The defendant pleaded guilty to stalking without fear, alarm, or distress. Dyke was spared from prison time, but was ordered to undergo rehabilitation to learn how to interact with people better. He was also fined and was sentenced to community service. And as an added consequence, he was banned from contacting or going anywhere near the victim. In a previous case from just a year earlier, Dyke was convicted of harassment for barraging his ex-wife with messages over a 2-week period in early 2021. At one point throughout the ordeal, Dyke's ex received over 70 messages in a day, despite making it clear that she didn't want to interact with him. The judge granted a 5-year restraining order, which was still in effect when the case involving the second woman was brought against Dyke. Hopefully, he's learned his lesson and will stop his toxic and terrifying behavior. Although it's hard to hold out hope since he clearly didn't learn his lesson the first time. Would you rather go an entire year without using social media? Or give up your favorite food for a year? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.